Okay, can you guys... Okay, my thing is like acting up, and so now we're gonna be... Hold on. Yeah, but my camera's not working now. I am getting very aggravated. Whatever.
I'm back. Immerses you in a universe. From Hamilton's devastating crash to Verstappen's dramatic incident, which even destroyed a F1 driver's career. These are the terrible crashes that changed F1 forever.
An absolutely smeared championship protagonists taking each other.
And we gotta start with Fernando Alonso. In 2016, Alonso crashed badly as he went flying against the wall in the Australian Grand Prix.
Did get airborne. Oh, look how far it's gone.
Bro,
He went
just imagine,
through the air before coming.
imagine you're in that car. Like, if you were in a car that went through the same thing, like going 200 miles per hour, and then it flips. Like, unless you're a Formula One driver, you're not going to survive that. There's no chance in history. Okay, hold on. What? How do I get it?
To rest upside down at 200 miles per hour. Luckily, he wasn't seriously injured and was capable of escaping his McLaren. But trust me, guys, that's nothing. Because what Max's father, Jos Verstappen, suffered from was one of the most infamous fire incidents in F1 history. At the 1994 Hockenheim race, Jos came to the pits after 15 laps, hoping for a regular pit stop. But instead, he experienced the shock of his life. Fuel got sprayed out of the fueling hose and ignited his hot car. This became a huge disaster as Verstappen in his car and his surroundings caught fire.
In Formula races, the cars are like so hot that if you spill gas or racing fuel on the car, it'll light on fire instantly. And if it gets into the tank, it's going to be even worse because that'll lead it to the engine, and then the engine blows up, and then all that stuff. And it's probably one of the worst things in accidents in Formula or in all types of racing.
Flames, and it was suddenly dark and black, and I couldn't breathe. And despite this disaster, pit stop refueling still remained in F1 till 2010. But eventually, after several more incidents occurred due to refueling, it got banned for good. But even though Jos survived his fiery crash, another driver couldn't, which not only made headlines, but also became one of the worst moments in F1's history. In 1994, the crash at the San Marino GP changed F1 forever. Roland Ratzenberger, an Austrian driver who had competed in just 3 F1 races, crashed his car into a wall at 195.7 miles per hour during qualifying, resulting in his loss. But unfortunately, that wasn't all. Ayrton Senna, one of the best F1 drivers in history, crashed and passed away the next day due to one of the most horrifying crashes in F1 history. There are even rumors that the Brazilian was considering not competing in the Grand Prix because he was so devastated by Ratzenberger's passing. Sadly, Senna made the decision to race, and on lap 7, he lost control of his vehicle and hit an exposed concrete barrier at a speed of about 192 miles per hour. This incident created a great...
No, because imagine you, like, I've said this already, but like imagine you're in the car, like if you were in it, like how scary that would be if you're like in his position. Because if you're like in a car at 192 and then you know you're losing control and then you go straight to a wall, you're like, your life's flashing before your eyes. You're like praying. Like that would just be like, for me, even me personally, that would be like traumatizing as heck.
Deal of changes in F1, with more emphasis being placed on the safety of F1 drivers. To minimize dangerous detachments in crashes, testing methods for tire barriers were made mandatory. Barriers were secured by rubber belts, and wheel tethers were adopted. But while these terrible crashes changed F1, some crashes also crushed one F1 driver's reputation. And we all know which Russian driver I'm talking about. Nikita Mazepin's rookie season made some big headlines, but not for any good reasons. He was a laughingstock. Even before his career got started, he was already being judged. And when he crashed in the first race of the year, obviously it didn't help him. But seriously, guys, crash in the first race? I mean, come on. Even Sergio Perez repeatedly called him an idiot at the Portuguese Grand Prix. Also, his relationship with ex-teammate Mick Schumacher also deteriorated. And to the point where Mick even declared that he wanted to finish him. Oh boy, that got serious. But while this Haas driver's crashes were simply ridiculous, another Haas driver was also involved in a crash, which not only changed his life, but also changed F1 forever. During the opening lap of the 2018 Bahrain Grand Prix, Romain Grosjean was involved in a terrifying crash. He reached a peak force of 67 Gs when he crashed into a metal barrier at 119 miles per hour. This split his car into half and caused an explosion. Grosjean was trapped in the cockpit for 27 seconds before he managed to escape through the raging fire. But later, he revealed that the main reason he's alive is because of the halo, which definitely has become a huge part of F1 safety. But despite the safety precautions, some crashes were simply unavoidable, especially when it looked like a driver would do anything to harm their teammates' chances of winning. And we're of course talking about Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg. Despite winning both Constructors and Drivers' Championships, things got personal for the Mercedes drivers, especially at the height of it, when the pair took out each other on the opening lap at the Spanish Grand Prix. The crash was so bad that it not only fractured their already tense relationship, but also had Mercedes threaten to sack both drivers. But what's interesting...
Imagine if Lewis Hamilton got sacked. Like, if he got kicked out of F1, that would be like, because he's one of the most influential drivers in F1 history. Like, just imagine him, like, gone. Like, out of the picture. Verstappen's the only good, one of the only good racers in Formula left.
Is the pair were actually childhood friends, and even after that, their friendship suffered and got ruined to the point where Lewis even told Mercedes that he didn't want to race for them again. Niki Lauda also stressed that both drivers pushed each other to the limit, hence the crash. But turns out, this crash was nothing compared to the crash that Niki experienced during his racing days, which was so devastating that it forced F1 to make changes. It was 1976 German Grand Prix. Bad weather and track coverage meant that parts of the Nürburgring circuit were wet. Now, what's interesting is, even though Lauda was the fastest driver on the circuit, he still expressed his displeasure with the track and asked his fellow drivers to abandon the race. But unfortunately, he was outvoted, and as such, the race went ahead. And sadly, at the notoriously dangerous Bergwerk corner, he lost control of his Ferrari, veered off the track, collided with a wall, and his car burst into flames. The Austrian driver suffered severe burns to his head, hands, and inhaled hot fumes that damaged his lungs. And after being taken to the hospital, he fell into a coma and was even given his last rites. But he survived, thank God. But while Niki Lauda's crash became a defining moment in his career, Nicholas Latifi's crashes were also pretty much defining, but not in the way he wanted.
Ferrari's had a lot of bad crashes in Formula. Like, there was one in the 80s where the one guy hit his top left wheel, the other guy's bottom right wheel, and then he flipped over, and that killed him like after a few days in the hospital. And then there was the guy that died the same way, I think like a few weeks earlier or a month earlier. I forget their names. I watched some stuff on that a few days ago, but
In the final laps of the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, Latifi ruined it for Mercedes. Hamilton saw his lead cut after Latifi crashed into the barriers. But as apologetic as Latifi was about the incident, he did little to change his Latifi status, as he also crashed behind a safety car at the Monaco Grand Prix. Behind a safety car. I mean, come on. How does that even happen? Well, this is what Latifi said. The throttle didn't get stuck, but it was like the throttle got stuck. It was very strange and surprising at the same time, and I was already going so slow there, I was just a passenger at that point. The car is driving forward, and I'm not on the gas, so I don't know what's happening here. Well, now that's one way to put it. But remarkably, that wasn't all. During the Japanese Grand Prix practice session, he got lost and turned down a dead end. And instead of continuing down the track layout, he made a 180-degree turn and went the wrong way. This obviously didn't go unnoticed, but instead of owning up, once again, he blamed the incident on the car being strange. Latifi, Latifi. What a guy. But while Latifi's crashes luckily didn't cause any serious harm, unfortunately, we can't say the same thing for Antoine Hubert, because as we all know, the crash he was involved in was simply devastating. In the Belgian Grand Prix, the F2 driver was involved in a high-speed crash. On the second lap, Hubert collided into a barrier near the high-speed Eau Rouge turn and was then struck by another driver, Juan Manuel Correa, which caused Hubert's car to be completely destroyed. Antoine later succumbed to his injuries and thus couldn't survive. But sadly, that's not all, because Formula One racing icon Jackie Stewart also experienced a similar incident at the same corner. Stewart was left facing his end when he crashed his car at the Spa circuit, which left him hanging upside down with fuel trickling down his face. He was
that's why Formula doesn't race at Spa anymore.
safely rescued from his automobile by two other drivers, and since then, he's led multiple campaigns to increase drivers' safety. But surprisingly, his initial thoughts were that seatbelts were unnecessary and uncomfortable. But since then, he's changed his mind after these many new safety measures prevented from losing many drivers. When I was starting in the Formula One world,
Okay, chat. I'm gonna end the stream here because I gotta go. Bye bye, chat.